Hello, this is an introductory tutorial to the Maple maths programming system. I'm just going to take you through a few simple exercises to get you used to the Maple system. I'm just launching Maple here, and you can see I'm going to Maple 1.12 and I'm using Classic Worksheet Maple. Don't use the other one. And this is what you see when you launch Classic Worksheet. It gives you a sort of introductory help screen, and I'm going to just close that, and basically I just get a cursor here which I can type stuff. Now I'm just going to show you, go through the help sheet that I've set up. I'll just scroll to the top of it here. Let's get right at the top. There we are. Okay, so there's some basic stuff. First of all, commands. Everything that you type after that angled bracket must end in a semicolon, and you notice that all these examples in the starter exercise all have a semicolon at the end. The little hat there, 2 hat n, means to the power of. So if I type 2 hat 10 semicolon, I get the answer 2 to the power of 10, which is 1024. So that's fairly simple. And actually, if I don't put the semicolon, you can see it actually warns me. But if I then insert the semicolon, it will accept that. So let's just go back to the exercises. Let's have a look at another one. So look at the second one. 2 to the power of 1000 minus 1. So I'm going to go 2 to the power of 1000 minus 1 semicolon, and we have an enormously long number, which reminds me of some school children that I found once who were giggling at a computer screen, and I thought they were doing something very naughty, and they were very excited to have discovered a website which gives them pi to 6 million decimal places. Anyway, let's have a look at some other examples. Here we have 10 exclamation mark, which means 10 factorial, which means 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 and so on. And let's have another look at one more of these. If we do sine pi divided by 6, and that sine pi divided by 6 is a half. Now, all the angles that Maple uses are in radians, so they're basically in fractions of pi. So it doesn't use degrees, which is how we might normally think of sines and causes. Okay, so we also are able to plot things in Maple, and I'm going to try the plot command now. So I'm going to say plot, and then x to the power of 2, and I want to plot it against x. And there we have a nice parabolic curve there for x squared. And let's have a look at sine x. So here we have plot sine x, and I've actually just pasted that in. I've just literally copied it out of Word and pasted it into Maple, and I get a nice graph of sine x. And so you can have a look through these and get a feel for how the plot command works. Now, one of the nice things that we can do is to plot a number of lines all at the same time and give them different colours. Now notice the use of the brackets here, because basically the brackets are used to group different equations. So I've got two equations, x squared plus 1, x squared minus 2. And so if I actually paste that in, x squared plus 1, and I've also got a range in there. You sort of didn't see that, but I'll show you where the range is. If you look, it says x equals minus 4 and then 2 dots to 4, and y equals minus 4 and then 2 dots to 20. That's the range. And what I've also done is I've put a colour in, and I've said for those 3 lines that we're drawing, do black, green and red. So there are my black, green and red lines. Okay, so let's just move down a bit so you can see all the different things that you can do. I'm just going to highlight the range aspect of this again. Again, y equals minus 1 to 1. That's the range. So minus 1, 2 dots to 1. That indicates the range of the graph. And if I change that, I would get a more compressed graph. You can play with this. You can experiment. Just moving on then through the sheet, we can also plot individual points, and I do this by grouping numbers within square brackets. So if you look, I'm going to plot point 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 7, 12, and 810, and I'm going to join them up with a line, and there we have it. So you know, you can draw all sorts of shapes using these sorts of techniques. Maple's very powerful with matrix multiplication, and you can produce 3D shapes and do 3D transformations and all sorts of things, but I'm not going to cover that now. What you can also do is you can assign a range of points to a variable. So by saying a equals and then that list of points here, I can now just simply say, use a shorthand, plot a, and then say join them up with a line, same thing. Or I can just say plot a. Whoops, not z, a. There we go. Okay? So I'm going through this very quickly, I realise, but it's just to give you an idea of some of the things that the Maple tool can do. If you ever want any help with a particular command, like plot, for example, you can just say question mark and then what the command is. And if I do that in the Maple system, question mark plot, semicolon, and I get a help window up, and it tells me some information about that particular command. Okay, so just do a little bit more exploration of the plot command, because we can also plot functions, we can plot equations. So I can plot, for example, 2 times x plus 1 against x. So if I want to plot that, I should get a straight line in that way. Okay. So very much like the plots that we did earlier, and I can plot all sorts of complex or more complex graphs. So I've got 3 lines here, and again I've given them a range. It's coloured them automatically. Notice actually, if I put a colour command at the end of this line, I could customize the colours that Maple decided to use. And just moving on, notice that I can actually plot lines which intersect each other. So that can be a useful tool, particularly if you're wanting to solve simultaneous equations. In Maple, there is a very neat way of solving any sort of equation, and to do this we use the solve command. So here I've highlighted solve 2 times y minus x minus 1 squared equals 2 in terms of y. So let's just paste that in here. So solve 2 times y minus x minus 1 squared equals 2 in terms of y, which gives us an answer of half x squared minus x plus 3 over 2. And let's just try a different one. Solve x squared minus x equals 2025 in terms of x. This is a classic sort of quadratic equation, so of course we get 2 answers. Equals a half plus the square root of 8101 divided by 2, and x equals a half minus the square root of 8101 divided by 2. So we can use the solve command to solve basic linear equations, and so you can have a go at some of those the exercises there. And we can also use it to solve simultaneous equations, and we simply do this by using brackets to group pairs of equations. So if I want to solve 2x plus 5y equals 1 and 6x minus y equals minus 13, I use the square brackets. Well, first of all, obviously I need round brackets around the whole solve equation, and then square brackets around the 2 pairs of equations. So the first one's gone in, and now 6x minus y equals minus 13. 6 times x minus y equals minus 13. Close the square brackets, and I want 2 answers. So I want in x and y, and the answers that I want go in square brackets too. The syntax is very important here, so you know, if you make a mistake it will tell you. But I've got an answer, x equals minus 2 and y equals 1. So that's basically it. Now, you may or may not have fully understood all the mathematical expressions that I've used, and I have gone incredibly quickly. But all I can say is that there's no substitute for just experimenting and having a go with some of these exercises to really get a feel for using Maple to do maths.